Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's a good tip to know.
Oh, your friend tell you
Yeah. Well, yeah. He helped me. He lives here, so it's so pretty out here.
But every human being like it.
It's 3 p.m. Tuesday. The rest of your friends are behind their office job. You are in Japan, cruising the streets, looking for the best local sushi spot. Or you're in Thailand, trying some new pad thai, exploring the scenic routes and the high rises the city has to offer.
Back, another beautiful day in Thailand.
Better yet, what if you're on a beach somewhere in Mexico, in Puerto Rico, in Cancun, etc.? This is a lifestyle you could be living. So ever since the idea of digital nomad, it's been a buzzing term in the online presence, online community space. Everyone wants to do it. You got TikTok influencers, YouTube people, old people, young people, black people, white people. Everyone at one point has considered the digital nomad lifestyle.
Good afternoon, good morning, good night, depending on where you are and what time of the day you're watching this video. I have arrived in Singapore. That is correct. I have arrived in beautiful Singapore. Look at this.
But what is it? What does it mean to be a digital nomad? What are the risks, pros, and cons, and how can you do it? In this particular video, I'm going to be discussing all of that. Stay tuned. Hello everyone, I go by PayMeInPaella. You can follow me on all socials, PayMeInPaella. PayMeInPaella. I make travel related content. In today's video, we'll talk about how you can become a digital nomad in the year 2025 and beyond. So, give you some brief history on my situation. I was a digital nomad previously. I recently started uploading YouTube videos maybe about 10 months ago, but I did prior traveling before that. And honestly, I wish I would have captured those moments. It was good while it lasted, but I'm glad I did eventually pick up the camera. So what is a digital nomad? So a digital nomad is a person who is nomadic, right? Hence the name digital nomad, going from place to place, typically living and or working in a remote place different from their origin location. Once you put the digital term in front of it, it implies that you're doing things electronically. So that's going to bring us to our point here shortly when we talk about how you become a digital nomad. But before we get there, I do want to talk about some risks and some cons, some things that people may not consider when it comes to this lifestyle. First of all, there is going to be a sense of isolation, right? There are communities, but I will let you know you're going to go through some of the ups and downs by yourself. So that is to be expected. Also, you want to be open-minded to other people's cultures and be aware that how you think may not be how the masses think. When you go abroad, you need to be prepared to live like the locals, or think like the locals, react like the locals, interact with the locals. You don't want to come into it with your typical mindset. Remember, stay open-minded, stay courteous, respect other people's cultures, and you should be all right. Now, another thing I want to talk about is the danger level. Now, depending on the country you're from, you may experience more or less danger, but you want to keep that in mind, right? There are countries where there's people looking to kidnap people, take organs, etc. I don't want to go too deep on YouTube, but you get the idea what I'm saying. Watch your surroundings at all time, and make sure you have some common sense about you. So, let's talk about the different ways you can become a digital nomad. The first way is you can teach English. But you're like, teaching? That's in the physical form. Yes, it can be the physical form, but it could also be in the digital form. I actually was an English teacher, right? I taught English in South Korea, and I'm gonna tell you guys about my little story as far as the pay and everything like that. So for my particular company, they covered our housing expense. So we didn't have to worry about housing. They paid for our health insurance, which in South Korea is pretty cheap anyway. I think it's like 40, 50 USD, a lot cheaper than the States. I'm assuming it's a lot cheaper than UK and Australia. Shout out to my Australian and UK audience. And they also would occasionally give us like a little bit of lunch or a little bit of breakfast. It wasn't common, but every once in a while they do it, right? And then if we needed certain services, like maybe we wanted to see an eye doctor, or maybe we had certain things we need to do, they point us in the right direction. They help us set up bank accounts, which is important, right? And as far as the pay, when I was teaching English in Korea, after all that, so after they covered the health, after they covered the housing, we still got paid about I'm gonna say roughly 1,500 USD a month. So it's not bad, right? It's not a significant amount of money, but something. Especially when you consider the housing, because housing and debt is usually people's two big expenses, and transportation. But they place you near the school so you can walk on purpose, right? So you can just take a 10, 15, 20-minute walk and you're already there, right? You don't need to take crazy transportation, so it worked out perfectly. Truly was a great experience. You know, I had my ups and downs, but overall, I'm so glad I did it. It was definitely outside of my comfort zone. So let's talk about how much you can make in particular countries when it comes to teaching English. So, oh yeah, first, you're gonna wanna get something called a TEFL. So TEFL. It is teaching English as a foreign language. You could have a high school diploma and then a TEFL, put those two together, and technically you have enough. Now, if you have a college degree, it will open more opportunities for you. Again, also put you in positions that pay more, but technically all you need is a high school diploma and a TEFL. But the higher the education you have, the better. I had a few people who had master's degrees and things of that nature, and they got paid a little bit more, but it's understandable. They got higher education, right? But let's say you want to teach English. I'm going to tell you the countries that pay the most. So a lot of the Middle Eastern countries, like the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, things of that nature, they pay the most. And then it's followed by, I believe, Korea, and then Japan's right under. Japan just pays slightly less than Korea, only because Japan has higher demand, so they can afford to pay less, because everybody wants to go to Japan, right? But not everybody wants to go to South Korea. So they will pay you a little bit more if you go to South Korea. So it's certain Middle Eastern countries, then it's Korea, then it's Japan, and then everywhere else kind of falls under there, right? And then the lesser countries that are completely at the bottom that almost pay nothing is like Ecuador and Colombia. No disrespect to them, but that's just, it is what it is, right? You'd be lucky if you get like 500 a month for there. Just being honest with you. And if it's an English-speaking country, typically they pay a lot less, right? Because they're like, we already got English speakers. But the TEFL, to get an official TEFL, it's usually going to cost you between 600 to 1,500 USD. Different programs will cost a little bit different, but the turnaround time is super easy. If you pay for the advanced version, you can usually get it in a couple weeks, like maybe like a month or so. But if you do the one that's like standard, where it's a lot of information, but it's at a normal pace, you're probably looking at 3 months roughly. So it's a very quick turnaround thing. You get your high school diploma. Actually, you can get it while you're in high school. So by the time you graduate, you start applying, boom. By the time the next year walks around in August, you're already traveling while your friends are still trying to figure things out, right? Now, going to the digital aspect of it, you actually can teach English abroad. I will say, or teach English online with the abroad or without it. Now, I will say, since the pandemic happened, there's been less of a demand because China was one of the biggest requesters of people to do the digital English teaching, but now it's becoming more common, the whole digital game. And then with the pandemic gone away, they want more people in person. So there was a program called Q Kids, right? I applied for them specifically, but it's based out of China and they're looking for native English speakers. You can try to Google them. They are still an active company, but they're just not as large as far as the recruitment process. So you can teach English in the physical form, or you can teach it abroad. Or you can teach it digitally. Now, if you teach it digitally, obviously you can work remotely, set up your laptop anywhere, and then have that income there. Now, pay attention to tax things, right? That's gonna be another video though. Now, earlier I said, I'm gonna teach you different ways. So we got one way that teaching English. I have another way you can be a digital nomad. Study abroad. I just seen a post earlier today, and I wish I would have knew this because I would have took advantage of it when I was in college, when I was 18. But there are universities, such as the universities that are in the country of Finland, that will embrace foreigners with open arms, and you do not have to pay tuition. So imagine going to a university, getting you an education, and you don't have to pay tuition, right? So that's one way you could actually become a digital nomad, through education, right? You get an education visa, you get in the country, then you start moving and grooving. I studied abroad in Spain, so I was there for about 6 months. It was a magical experience. I was in the city of Alcalá de Henares. I lived with a Spanish family, took Spanish classes, and got to explore the local country. Every once in a while, we would go on field trips with the school. They take us to different parts. We got to see, right? So that's one way. So you got to teach English, you got to study abroad. So, and then you got the third way, which is to work abroad. So I did see that there are certain companies that are willing to sponsor you, right? I don't know if they still do this, but I saw like half a year ago that MasterCard was willing to pay for people from America to come work in Germany for their Germany location, and they would cover the sponsorship fee, right? So you can work abroad. There's a website called remote.com that has remote jobs. So you just stay vigilant, or you can just straight up go to google.com, go to axe.com, yahoo.com, type in remote work. A lot of them kind of are on the lower paying side, maybe 12, 13, 14, 15 an hour, but it's still decent, right? If you're making 15 an hour, that's over 1,200 a month, right? And that can survive you in countries like Thailand easily. Now, the fourth option, which I don't really recommend unless you really are on some, I just want to go out there, is you can wing it. So that's what I did. So during the pandemic, the prices of traveling got so cheap, and I was so tired of being inside all day that I just said, let me go abroad. So I went to Turkey for 4 months. I went to Brazil for like 2 weeks. I went to South Korea, Thailand. I went to a bunch of countries. I ended up traveling for like 10 months before I finally like ran out of money and had to come back home and start working again and making money. But it was a nice little 10-month run, right? So I am actually planning on a similar run here shortly in 2026, but this time I have more education, more knowledge, more experience. So it's going to be an extended run, and obviously I am monetized on YouTube, so that's one way to make money, which brings me to my next reason, or my next way that you can become a digital nomad in 2025. You can have an online business. You can be a content creator. I got monetized in 4 months. If you want to see how I got monetized, right, you can always DM me, but you can just watch my trail. So I haven't deleted any videos. So if you watch all my videos, you can see, okay, he did this, he was in this country, blah, blah, blah. And you'll see how I got monetized so fast. In 4 months, a lot of people, it takes them like 4 years to get monetized. It's the watch hours is the longest to get, right? Because you only need 1,000 subscribers, which there's some people who get 1,000 subscribers in 3 weeks. Like if your content is really that good, or if you're in like a viral niche, I've seen people get like 20,000 subs in 2 months. It's crazy, right? But the watch hours is what gets them. So you can get a lot of views. My highest ranked video, I think, has like 35,000. But you need that watch time. You need people to sit there, engage, and actually watch the content and enjoy it. And then once you hit, I believe it's 4,000 watch hours within a 12-month period, you then get monetized. Anything you did before that, just to let you know, you will not make any money off of, but I understand it's part of the game. But once you hit that in a 12-month process, once you hit 4,000 watch hours, monetize, and you start getting paid per view. It's long formats and short formats, right? By the way, I haven't actually withdrawn a single dollar out of my YouTube account. I'm just letting it sit there as I'm saving for my big travels, right? So we talked about winging it. We talked about being a YouTube creator. We talked about study abroad, teach abroad, all that, right? Work abroad. The next thing I would like to talk about. Is becoming a business owner, right? Drop shipping, I don't believe is dead. There's people still making money off drop shipping, and I actually believe Shopify, e-commerce, drop shipping, etc. has another spike in 2025. I met someone in Thailand, a brother from South America, who showed me like, hey, I'm still doing e-commerce, I'm still doing drop shipping. And he's able to travel. He's in another country right now, but I met him in Thailand, and I'm like, man, they're still doing it? I thought that was like something from like 6 years ago, but apparently it's still a thing. And now with all this software that's going on, it actually makes it a lot easier. So you need to discover an audience, who's buying this, what do people need, etc. Right? Maybe everyone needs some water, and you can sell them some water. Who knows, right? Find something you can sell to people, sell it to them, take the profit from that, and then be able to be able to work abroad. You need to realize, how much am I gonna make? Okay, if I do this, I can make 3,000 a month. Okay, now that I see, you gotta reverse engineer. Now that I see I can make 3,000 a month, where can I live on the earth? You gotta know the prices. Part of the reason why I've been to Thailand so many times is because the price. It's not my favorite country, it's just cheap for the US standards. You could go to Thailand, live comfortably for $1,200 a month, right? Your biggest expense is going to be the housing, just like anywhere else. Vietnam's around that same price point. Malaysia's around that same price point, if not slightly cheaper. There's a lot of places in South America you can live in that price point. Colombia, Brazil, right? Venezuela. You just gotta see what's going on and know the cost of living. I love Spain, but I know I can't live in Spain for that price range. To live in Spain, for that same lifestyle, I'd probably need between $1,500 to $1,900, right? So I know I gotta make more if I wanna live in Spain, which by the way, I plan on going to Spain in the next few months. So if you wanna enjoy that type of content, or if you enjoy this content, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for all my journeys. But I just want to give you a quick little guide as far as being a digital nomad. I appreciate everybody's support I've been getting. I am planning some travels. If you got any recommendations for me, either leave them in the comment section or message me on social media. I've been responding to every DM on Instagram, every DM on TikTok, and every comment on YouTube. I appreciate everybody's support. Peace.